Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. I'm Carl Peterson, Credit Suite's content and social media lead, and I am thrilled to have you here as we explore one of the let's face it, one of the hottest topics in the last couple of years in modern business management, and it's how to effectively manage a remote team. If you've ever faced challenges with communication, with accountability, or team culture in a remote setting, you are not alone. I could sing it from the rooftops. It's pretty much a blanket statement that everybody kind of struggles, especially with as they move into a remote first company kind of for the first time or those beginning stages. So today I am sharing, regardless of where you are in that remote journey, I am sharing 5 proven tips to help you overcome these hurdles and build up a high performing remote team. But before I jump in, let me know in chat, where are you tuning in from? Are you currently managing a remote team, or is this something you're preparing for? Let me know. I'd love to know. And also, I'll give you a shout out while I'm at it. Here's everything we're going to cover today. So, we're going to cover building a strong communication framework, which is huge. We're going to cover fostering accountability without micromanaging, which is huge. Number 3 is going to be prioritizing team culture and engagement. You guessed it. That's huge. Number 4 is focusing on flexibility and work life balance. And number 5 is investing in professional development. And by the end of this stream, you're going to walk away with actionable strategies that you can actually start using today. I don't see why not. So we have a absolute massive amount to cover. What are we waiting for? I say we just dive in with number 1, which is number 1 of my 5 expert tips here on managing made simple for remote teams. Number 1 is build a strong communication framework. Communication is just simply the cornerstone of remote team success. In an office, communication happens naturally. You bump into someone at the coffee machine, or you quickly swing by their desk to ask on the update on a project or ask how their weekend was. In a remote environment, it kind of goes without saying, this does not happen. Credit Suite has been fully remote for the last couple of years now. The only thing swinging by my desk during my day is my dog, which I'm always okay with. But misunderstandings arise, silos form, and collaboration can obviously very much take a hit as well. And the worst part is, it's not even intentional in most cases, it just naturally happens. Here's how you can fix that. So, you want to choose the right tools. You need to invest in platforms like Slack and Microsoft Teams and Zoom or Google Meet. Each tool should serve a very specific purpose. For example, Slack is typically used for quick updates and team discussions. Zoom is obviously for face to face video meetings, which are vital for building rapport. Emails are typically for formal communication that doesn't really need an immediate response. Keep in mind, though, obviously, too many of something can be overwhelming. So keep it simple and streamline this process as much as you can. It goes such a long way. You also want to create a communication policy. So outline expectations for how and when to use each tool. For example, urgent matters should be flagged on Slack. Routine updates can wait until maybe scheduled meetings. Encourage video calls over emails for complex discussions to avoid that kind of miscommunication by accident. You want to write down this policy and you want to share it with your team during onboarding and actively during team meetings. You may be asking, Carl, is this like super necessary? Is it that serious to have a policy around it? I say absolutely yes. If you don't want to even use the word policy, if that sounds too official for you, then don't call it a policy. But there needs to be a very clear communication expectation in place for each situation. That was A very hard sentence. I encourage everyone to try to say that three times fast. Very Dr. Seuss of me. You also want to establish cadence. So schedule recurring check-ins, such as like weekly team meetings to discuss goals and challenges. And also don't forget about the successes, big and small. Bi-weekly one-on-ones for just deeper conversations to understand what is that person working on? How can I help? What can I clarify more? It has to be done. Here at Credit Suite, we have them weekly to avoid any kind of miscommunication and make sure that everyone's on the same page work wise, and just all around as a team on the same page, working towards the same goal. Weekly meetings is what we have. Even a quick daily stand up for 10 to 15 minutes to just align on priorities. That's not super unheard of either. This structure just basically, regardless of which one you pick or how you choose to navigate that, it's all just for the same outcome, which is just ensuring that everyone stays informed and connected without feeling micromanaged, which is a topic we're going to be discussing in just a moment, micromanagement. So stick around for that. And don't forget to over communicate. You want to over communicate. Encourage team members to share more details than they think is probably even necessary. For example, when assigning tasks, include context, expected outcomes, deadlines, show examples. It's better to provide too much than too little in pretty much all cases that I can think of right now off the top of my head, especially when working across different time zones. This is something that everyone on my team can vouch for. Sometimes I feel like I'm just rambling on and on and on, but I always do leave those meetings feeling like I did my part to help the success of the other person in that moment. So don't be afraid to over communicate and also kind of create that culture of over communication is key, even if it's not always needed. Number two tip out of my five expert tips of managing a remote team. Number two is fostering accountability without micromanaging. I told you I was going to mention it. Here we are. So, one of the biggest challenges in remote work is ensuring accountability without falling into this trap of micromanagement. No one likes to feel like they're being monitored constantly, and trust is a very essential thing for team morale. So personally, this is massive for me. I don't like micromanaging and I don't like being micromanaging, and accountability is that answer and is that fix. So here's how to strike that kind of right balance. You want to define the roles and responsibilities. So what does that mean? It means everyone knows exactly what's expected of them. For example, assign very clear ownership of projects and tasks so there's no confusion about what's due or who's responsible for what. You should also be setting what's called SMART goals. Have you ever heard of this? SMART stands for, I'm going to spell it out. So S is specific. So clearly define what needs to be done. M is measurable, which is a huge one. You should include metrics to track progress. A is achievable. You should set realistic expectations. Relevant is the R, align with broader team objectives. And if you're following along at home, T is time bound, which is assign a deadline. A good example of this would be, instead of saying something like, we need to improve customer satisfaction, set up a more clear goal, like increase our customer satisfaction from score from 85% to 90% in the next quarter. That one tiny change, just a little bit more details, a couple more added words there, concrete exactly what needs to be done, when it needs to be done by, and how it can be measured. So use SMART rules. So use project management tools is what's next here. So tools like Asana is a big one, or Monday.com is a big one too. There's a million of them. They are all, well, no, I can't vouch for all of them, but there's a lot of great ones out there for assigning tasks and setting deadlines and actually tracking that progress at the same time. Create a shared board where everyone can actually visually see the status of ongoing projects, which also in turn kind of motivates the team to meet their deadlines a little bit more as they watch the progress lead up to their handoff. With that, you also probably want to schedule regular progress updates. So, using weekly progress reports to stay updated without constantly checking in is definitely a good tip, a good way to approach that. But also, these can be done in a quick Slack channel or during your team meetings. Obviously, this isn't a one size fits all. You have to kind of take these tips and you can use them out of the box exactly how they are. Or what I likely think will happen is you're going to have to take these tips and mold them to your specifics. So maybe a progress report works perfectly. Maybe daily 10-minute long stand ups works better. I don't know your team. So you do. So take these tips and obviously adjust them accordingly. And also, you just want to trust your team, right? So show your team that you trust them to get their work done. And that, avoid micromanaging by focus on outcomes instead of hours work. Trust is that good middle ground. Tip number three, we're moving right along. You want to prioritize team culture and engagement. Don't overlook and don't downplay this is a massive tip to you here. Remote teams can feel isolated, and that could just lead to disengagement or low morale or even turnover. Culture matters to employees, very much so. But it's even more important in this massive virtual landscape. Here's how you can build a strong sense of community in your company, even remotely. So, some ideas is you can host a virtual social event, create opportunities for team bonding, is basically what that is. Things like a virtual happy hour, or online trivia games, or coffee chats where two team members are randomly paired to get to know each other. You can also use tools like Gather Town to add a fun little interactive element to it. You should also be celebrating achievements. So use Slack channels or team meetings to highlight these big or small wins. And that can obviously be daily wins, like, hey, yesterday I did blank. Or it can be like, hey, we're celebrating whoever on the team because they just did 5 years with the company. These things should be talked about openly. They should be talked about. You should also foster inclusion. So create a safe space for everyone to just share ideas openly. That's a huge, huge, huge one. So an idea here is you can rotate who leads these daily stand-ups to give everyone kind of a chance to really shine. You should also encourage feedback. So regularly check in with your team to ask, hey, how you feeling? How you doing? A great way to do this is anonymous surveys. They can help uncover areas of improvement or areas that you didn't even realize you needed to focus on whatsoever. But now you're like, hey, wait a minute. This is going on. I had no idea. And then act on that feedback to actually show your team that their input does matter. It's not just for fun. It's not just in emails saying, hey, this is just kind of checking my to-do list off. Can you fill this out? No, make those surveys have actionable plans when they obviously make sense to do so. One company I know celebrates, I think they call it Fun Fridays or something like that, where the last hour of the Friday work hour is just dedicated to a team activity, like a game or a casual chat, or just there's really like nothing planned. They just jump in a call and talk. And it's a really great way to just kind of unwind after typically busy weeks and also build relationships. Number four out of my five tips of simplifying remote team management. Two more left. Are you still with me? You want to put a focus on flexibility and work life balance. So, remote work offers a lot of freedom, but without boundaries, that freedom could lead to burnout. Remote workers often struggle to turn off at the end of the day when your office is also your living room or your kitchen table. The lines between work and personal life blur very quickly, causing that stress and exhaustion, and ultimately leading to massive amounts of burnout. This has happened to me when I first started remote work for the very first time. I would actually go to sleep with my work laptop on my nightstand in case I just couldn't sleep and wanted to pop it open and get some more work done, or get ahead of the schedule tomorrow, or had to respond to something urgent. I wasn't aware at the time, but that caused just an insane amount of burnout so quickly. So I made the conscious decision to build a custom L-shaped desk. You can't see it, but you can see maybe the corner of it. I'm sitting at it currently, and it's where my work is here and my personal setup is there. And I'm not facing my personal desk when I'm at work, and I'm not facing my work desk when I'm off of work. It's a super, super simple step that I took, but it was the fix that I needed to not feel like work was everywhere around me 24/7, especially when I was off or on a weekend or a holiday and it was talking to me like the Ring of Mordor. It's a very dedicated space. I encourage you to find that thing for yourself, and also I encourage you to have those discussions with your team and actually help them figure out that healthy work-life balance, and making an open discussion. Those go a long way. Here's some tips on how to stay productive while also maintaining well-being for your teams. Just to kind of echo these tips to your team. Number one, you should set clear boundaries. As a leader, excuse me, you should model healthy work habits. So, for example, avoid sending late night emails if you don't have to, or Slack messages if it's not something absolutely urgent. Encourage your team to log off at the end of their workday and respect those boundaries, especially understanding that people have families or people have hobbies or whatever the case may be. Just kind of make it a proactive thought in your head, especially as a leader. You should also use time zones wisely. For global teams, use scheduling tools. There's one called World Time Buddy, and it helps find overlapping working hours. And you can also record meetings when not everyone can attend live, so no one feels pressured to join at really strange hours in the middle of the night. You should also, along with that, offer flexible schedules, right? So, one of the biggest perks to remote work is just the flexibility. I think if you were to ask 100 remote workers what the top three perks are, I guarantee you that flexibility will be in the top three answers. And it makes sense, right? That's a massive perk, and that's why many people like remote work. But let team members adjust their schedules to actually feel that flexibility, to accommodate their personal needs, as long as obviously deadlines and team commitments are met. An example here, a parent might work earlier in the day to account for later in the afternoon when they have to pick their child up from school or something along the lines. This is extremely common. In fact, I don't think I've had any position in the last 6 years of remote work that at least a few people don't do that. This is common, and you should consider welcoming it openly with your team if you're going to be remote. You should also encourage breaks. So promote the idea of stepping away from the screen every once in a while, every day. Regardless of if you think that that person needs it, or if that person thinks they need it or don't. I still think that it is an extremely healthy habit to have across the board. You should encourage team members to take short breaks throughout the day and also not skip lunch breaks. There's so many people that just plow through lunch working or eat lunch at their desk. You should encourage them to step away and have that time with lunch breaks. You can even schedule a no meeting day, no meetings allowed, at least once a week to give your team just uninterrupted focus time. I do both of these things. So sometimes my eyes are just burning. I have a ginormous, almost this, I mean, it is the size of a television screen in front of me. I got a screen here. I have all these lights. My eyes are sometimes really burning after super, super long back to back to back hours of staring at the screens and the lights and stuff. And sometimes my head is spinning from that. And I take a 10-minute walk or just step outside to play with my dog for a couple minutes, and I come back ready to conquer the rest of the day. I've mentioned my dog 2 times in this stream. Uh, that's a world record. I never mention her. I feel bad, but here we go. Here you go. Shout out Faye. Additionally, I make Fridays my what I call makeup day, right? Where typically when I'm able to, my entire schedule is cleared of meetings and I can only focus on making sure that my weekly tasks are completed. It's my makeup day. Fridays are when I can come in and say, okay, what was carried over from the day before or the day after, and this is that opportunity where I can have completely an uninterrupted session of knocking that out. And it's extremely beneficial for me every single week in some form or fashion. And number 5, we've made it. We're here. You should invest in professional development. So this is crucial for keeping remote employees engaged and also motivated. So remote workers often feel disconnected from career growth opportunities. They might worry that out of sight also just completely means out of mind when it comes to promotion and skill development. So here's some ways that you can focus on development for your remote team specifically. You should provide access to online learning. So platforms like LinkedIn Learning or Skillshare offers extremely affordable, high quality trainings on just the widest range of topics ever. This is something we actually utilize here at Credit Suite, and it's a huge hit. You should also host internal workshops. So use your team's existing knowledge to run internal workshops. For instance, excuse me, a marketing expert could teach a session on SEO best practices if that's relevant in that week, for example. This builds skills while also fostering collaboration, while also going back to a callback from what I said before, also gives an opportunity for some to shine that may have not had a previous opportunity to. And it also could uncover an opportunity where, like, wow, I had no idea that this person was this knowledgeable in this thing. We could really use that here. So I encourage you to put those people in those positions and see what comes from it. You should also encourage conferences and webinars. So many industry conferences now offer virtual attendance options in some form or fashion. Whether that's videos on demand or just literally tuning into a live stream. There's going to be, if it's a a large enough conference, there's going to be an option for that. So encourage your team to participate and also encourage them to share what they learned from that time of watching or even attending uh with the group afterwards or with their team afterwards. You should also offer mentorship opportunities. Pair team members with mentors, either within your company or through external networks. So regular one-on-one sessions can help employees feel supported and motivated while in turn also learning and growing at the same time. It's a win across the board. And you should also create a very clear growth plan. So doing regular one-on-one meetings during them gives you an opportunity to discuss each team member's career goals and also create a plan to help them achieve those goals very clearly lined up. But it also tells them like, hey, You have my support in this. You have my motivation. You're not doing it alone. How can I help? Let's do it together to get you there. And then that also helps you openly talk about that progress as the weeks or months follow. It's very natural, like, hey, let's touch on this. How's it going? And again, it's a win across the board, just like the mentorship opportunity. So let's quickly recap the 5 tips that we've covered today. You should build a strong communication framework by using the right tools and also just setting clear norms. Number 2, foster accountability without micromanaging, and you do that by setting smart goals and leveraging project management tools. Number 3, prioritize that team culture by celebrating wins and hosting virtual events and also encouraging feedback. Number 4 is focus on flexibility and work life balance by respecting boundaries and also promoting just overall mental health resources, however that looks to your specific company and employee and situation. And then number 5, invest in professional development through online learning platforms or tools or mentorships and growth opportunities. Remember, managing a remote team effectively requires intentionality. Okay. But by implementing these strategies that we've talked about in this very short amount of time today, you will be able to create a very thriving team that's engaged, productive, and most of all, happy doing what they do and who they do it for. And that's big. If you found today's tips helpful, don't forget to like this stream. What are you doing? You're going to watch the whole thing and not show us some love? Make sure to drop a like. And also, if you're not following us yet on whatever platform you're watching on, don't forget to do that. We go live 2 times a week and we post pretty much daily content across all of our social media to help your business thrive. Here's another cool thing you got to know. As soon as this live ends, wait a minute. You might want to reload the page and go back. You can watch any and all of this stream again in its entirety on demand. I encourage you to do that since today was pretty jammed packed with information. Thank you so much for joining us today for our Tuesday stream. And remember, managing a remote team might seem challenging, but with the right approach, it can be incredibly rewarding for you, the business owner, and also the employees. We'll see you in the next live stream on Thursday. Until then, take care and keep thriving. And also, Happy New Year. This is our first live stream of the year. So glad to be doing it and glad to be talking to you.